This week's episode was brought to you by More Cute Stories Volume 4, the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. Available now on Amazon, iTunes, and more.
Communicore Weekly. Wanna get geeky? We bob around boats and five-legged goats. Communicore Weekly. You might get some freaking. Waited all week. I'm sure you already know this. Greatest online show. Welcome to Season 3.
Hello and welcome to Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show and home of the world's first pair of independently born identical twins. I'm George.
And I'm Jeff. And your inflection changed a little bit there. I've never heard you say it like that before.
Yeah, I wanted to try something different.
How did that feel?
Well, we just finished watching Anchorman 2, so I figured I wanted to pretend like I was Ron Burgundy.
You're Ron Burgundy?
Yes, I've got a mustache.
No, you don't.
Yes.
It's been a week. There's no way you've grown a mustache in a week that I've not seen you.
Oh, that's a good point.
Is it a fake mustache?
No, there's nothing there. I took a Sharpie and...
So you look ridiculous.
Don't always.
Fair enough. That's a fair point. Speaking of ridiculous, before this gets any worse, we should probably move on to the history segment.
Exactly.
It's time for Disney History.
Now, way back in episode 68, which seems like forever ago, we took a look at the 4 Monsanto-sponsored attractions at Disneyland. They are Adventures Through Inner Space, the Fashions and Fabrics Through the Ages exhibit, the Hall of Chemistry, and of course, the House of the Future. Now, while we did go over each one, we thought it was important to kind of go back and cover one a little more in depth, since it had some deep-reaching impacts on a lot of folks, and it kind of correctly predicted and incorrectly predicted many things that were to come in the coming days. And that one, of course, is the House of the Future.
Dun dun dun.
Ooh, nice.
So
nice.
We need to get a. I was gonna say a better music budget. We probably have the best music on any podcast.
We just need a soundboard, is what we need.
We need a soundboard.
That's
yeah.
what
I wonder.
is.
We could borrow Gary Hall. No,
Yeah.
we need to clean it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
Probably
a
some
little bit. So,
on it.
okay. Anyway, Walt really believed that people experiencing something was most important. You could always read about these grand new ideas or see photos of new concepts, but it would be much more compelling if they could actually experience it themselves. They could see new ideas implemented, go back and implement them into their everyday lives themselves. So in a way, that's how the House of the Future came about.
Now, at this time, Monsanto wanted to expand its presence in the home construction industry, since it was a booming industry at the time. It was a big deal. But by 1953, they contracted with a team from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, better known as MIT. Now, the group included architects Richard Hamilton and Marvin Goody from the Department of Architecture and engineer Albert G.H. Dietz from the Plastic Research Laboratory at the Department of Building Engineering and Construction. And Monsanto's plastics division sponsored the project. There's a lot of big company names in there.
Yeah,
like
I'm surprised. Usually you throw those on me.
I usually do. We should go back and re-record this so you have to say them.
Okay. Well, the goal of the project was to design a house that would explore the maximum use of plastics as a material for home construction and to use it in new ways that hadn't been thought of before. The challenge was not to simply replace wooden components with plastic ones, but to find new and innovative ways to exploit the material's unique characteristics, structural and aesthetic qualities. Basically, plastic as far as the eye could see.
Let's just replace everything with plastic. That's basically what it was. Give me all of the plastics. Now, based on this idea, Douglas Haskell of the American Institute of Architects thought the future meant that homes would not be mass-produced like automobiles, but would come from scientific laboratories, which is kind of weird. I don't want to live in a house that was created in a test tube, to be honest with you. And kind of like it is now, that was pretty radical thinking back for 1954, 1953. But back to the house, it was a modular polyester structure reinforced with fibrous glass, and the materials and the methodology were similar to those developed by Charles Ames for his molded plastic chairs of the 1950s.
The design was a white cruciform with 4 gracefully curved fiberglass wings that were cantilevered from a 256 square foot central core. The central core also housed the air temperature control units, and each wing was 8 feet tall, 16 feet wide, and 16 feet long. Overall, the house was 1,280 square feet and had 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a living room, a dining room, a family room, and a kitchen.
And that is larger than where I am currently living, so already this sounds like a great idea. Now, the Imagineers actually chose a cruciform because it assured full daylight for every room, it kind of reduced inter-room noise, and it provided extra privacy for various family activities. They have all this room for activities.
All this room for activities.
All this room.
Sorry.
I feel like anytime there's a lot of room or the word activities, we always have to reference that movie.
Yes.
Now, the design itself had also really allowed for easy expansion. And the bottom was a compression member, and the top had a tension ring that the modules hooked onto and they hung from. And you could hang more pairs of them as you needed. So if you wanted to have, family and friends over, we didn't have the room, just add another module or two. How
just
easy is that?
Run down the store.
Yeah, the corner module store.
Exactly.
Hey, Johnny, I need 2 modules for the weekend.
Well, speaking of Johnny Hench, or John Hench.
That was not done on purpose, by the way.
No, that was an accident.
That worked out pretty well.
All right, so Johnny Hench loved the design and thought that there was virtually no bad location for building it. Whether it be in a rocky location or on a hillside, the 16 by 16 pedestal would have been easy to work with. You could even rotate it on the pedestal to change the views. Wow, that's a great way you invite friends over.
I don't want to look at the castle anymore. I want to look at Tomorrowland.
You move it in the middle of the night, they get confused. Well, anyway.
That'd be great, actually. That's a great practical joke.
It's an expensive one, so
it is, but that's okay.
So as I mentioned, you could rotate it to change the views. Monsanto described the house as strangely graceful, sort of like us. Or we're gracefully strange?
I'll go with that one.
Okay, we'll do that one. Okay. And Disney proudly claimed that hardly a natural material appeared anywhere in the house. That makes me chuckle. Virtually every surface was synthetic.
Yeah, it just seems really, really weird, but I mean, it's kind of cool. But by the early 1960s, 15% of plastic production was dedicated to home building itself. And in 1953, MIT produced a report called Plastics in Housing, very clever of them, to explore the expanded uses of the material. And the objective was to develop plastics as a sound engineering materials and to help the construction industry kind of utilize new designs and materials to achieve production line methods and facilities. And the demonstration house was a very dramatic example on how to increase the acceptance of plastics as a construction material. So it was kind of like a prototype, if you will, for other construction companies to say, hey, this is a thing. This could be good for you guys.
The tour of the house itself started in the dining and family room. All the furniture was ultra-modern and made of plastic materials. The hope was the home would stimulate your imagination, but for many, the highlight was the kitchen. The Kelvinator division of American Motors Corporation designed the Stepsaver kitchen. It was dubbed the Atoms for Living kitchen. Many of the appliances either dropped from cabinets or popped up from the counter. A pop-up dishwasher used ultrasonic waves to clean and would also be the storage unit for all of your plastic dishes. And instead of one large refrigerator freezer unit, the house featured 3 cooling units called cold zones that lowered from ceiling cabinets.
Frozone?
Yeah, Frozones. That was well before, well, never mind.
Where is my super suit?
I was going with that. I was going to go with that one as well. Okay, so super suits aside, we had one zone for regular refrigeration, one for frozen, and one for irradiated foods, and not the current frozen film.
Oh, I was going to ask for that, actually.
I know you were, so okay. So even the storage shelves lowered from the ceiling unit just by pushing a button. Rising from the counter was a microwave oven.
Ooh,
hey.
Classy.
Mm-hmm.
So the Sylvania Electric Products Company, they provided adjustable lighting behind polarized plastic ceiling tiles lights in the room. And the Bell Telephone Company, they installed the push-button speakerphone with preset dialing. And there was also a climate control system that would allow for different temperatures in different zones from within the house. And there's a theme here, a lot of buttons. There were even buttons where you can push to get the scent of a rose or the ocean into any room. So
wow.
It's kind of like your own private version of soaring, except not terrible. That's how I look at it. Now, also in the children's room, it was divided into two by a sliding panel, and one side was for the boy, and one side was for the girl. Because, of course, in the future, they just assumed everyone had one boy and one girl.
Yes.
I mean, that makes sense. But plastics allowed for tough, durable materials that were easily washable. You can just wash it with a hose, pretty much. So both children shared a bathroom, and the bathroom featured a movable sink that rose and fell with the push of a button. So there was buttons everywhere, and anytime you would press one, crazy things would happen.
Something would happen. Wow. I would love to have different smells. It'd be great. Movie night, you could have a popcorn smell.
We could have a popcorn smell.
Hey, all for it. So the next stop on the tour was the master bedroom and bathroom. For the lady, she had a vanity with a push-button speakerphone. The master bath was modeled in two pieces. Along with the built-in electric razor and toothbrush is another hands-free push-button phone mounted on the wall. Because apparently
really
everybody in the
present?
future... Hey, that's a good point, but everybody in the future has phones everywhere.
Yes.
Gee.
Well, we do in our pockets now,
yes,
so I guess they called that one right.
Okay, so this is a different phone because it also contains a closed-circuit television, so you could see who was at the front door. I wonder if they could see you while you were shaving or brushing your teeth.
I guess they could because there's a lot of windows in that house.
Oh, that's true. Not that anybody would ever stalk anybody else. So.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Okay, and the ceiling lighting was adjustable and had panelescent panels, which act as a nightlight. And there was even a sound system in the shower.
So
now I just have a Bluetooth speaker in the bathroom.
So yeah, see, totally predicted all these things that we're doing now.
Yeah, with a button. It's got 3 buttons on it.
Yes,
too.
see. Well, maybe yours is too many buttons compared to their buttons, so I don't know.
Buttons of the future.
But finally, there was this spacious living room, which featured a giant, non-operational, wall-mounted television screen and a built-in stereo system. Now, in the real one, if there was a real one, of course the TV would work, because having a non-working TV would make no sense. But in this one, it did not work. John Henge himself, he designed the Alpha Chair, which was the first contoured chair that adjusts automatically, and it had a phone and music system with built-in speakers built right into the chair. And facing Sleeping Beauty Castle was ceiling-to-floor thermal pane picture windows featuring decorative laminated safety glass. So it had a pretty good view of the castle until you moved it, and then you were looking at Tomorrowland.
And you'd fight over it.
Yes, of course.
Well, at least it was the Tomorrowland from that time period, not the current Tomorrowland.
Yes, the Tomorrowland that looked great.
This editorial brought to you by Communicore Weekly Industries. All right. So Disneyland opened the front door of the Monsanto House of the Future to guests on June 12th, 1957. The attraction was free and was located at a prime spot off of the Plaza Hub, adjacent to the Circarama Theater. The location ensured a lot of foot traffic to the house. At night, the home would glow with all the lights on, and it added a special magic to the area and a nice entry point into Tomorrowland. The attraction remained open until 1967, and it was estimated that more than 20 million guests walked through the house.
Now, kind of in an unexpected way to prove the durability of plastic, there is a legend, or it is truth at this point really, that Disney had to go through an extraordinary effort to remove the attraction after it closed. So the original plan was kind of a one-day demolition, and they would take a wrecking ball and just smash the house to pieces. But unfortunately, when the wrecking ball hit the house, it just kind of bounced off the side because the plastic was so strong. So after doing that a few times, they just took hacksaws and they took the house apart piece by piece because they couldn't do it any other way. So I guess plastic really was the wave of the future, but I'm currently not living in a house of plastic. Therefore,
No.
it didn't work out that well.
No, plastic appliances and things everywhere, but yeah.
Yeah, not my house. It's like the Three Little Pigs, just they didn't have a plastic house.
He's a nerd, he's a geek, but we all like to hear him speak. So listen up to the words from his speech. It's George's Book of the Week.
So this week's is an audiobook review because, other things come across my desk on occasion. And this one is More Cute Stories, Volume 4, the 1964-65 New York World's Fair, narrated by Rolly Crump. And all you guys know that Jeff is my co-host, and he had a lot to do with this project. And just because we're friends, and he let me stay for free at his house like a week ago, does not unduly influence my review.
Does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, just making sure.
Anyway, so with these series, any time that you actually get to sit down and you can listen to a real Disney legend talk about what it was like to work at the Disney studios or with Walt on Disneyland projects, or when he reminisces about other Disney legends, it is an incredibly rare treat. And with the release of the spectacular It's Kind of a Cute Story, led Jeff and Leonard Kinsey of Bamboo Forest Publishing to release audio compilations of Rolly talking about some of pretty monumental events and people. And quickly on the heels of the 50th anniversary of the opening of the World's Fair, this is called Synergy, people, Bamboo Forest Publishing has released Volume 4.
We learned that from Disney, by the way.
Doing it that way. It is 60 minutes dedicated to the creation, the development, and the installation of the 4 Disney attractions. And most Disney historians agree that this World's Fair, the 64 World's Fair, was a watershed moment for the company itself. Not just as a testing bed for how accepting, the East Coast would be for the Disney attractions, but also a touchstone, basically, for breakthroughs in attractions, technology, and moving people around. And during the time of planning and installation, Rolly was one of Walt's favorite people at the studios, and Walt asked Rolly to be personally involved in all the projects. And these first-hand accounts that Rolly shares are insightful, heartwarming, and really very funny. Not only do we hear about the planning of the attractions, but Rolly shares some cute stories. Go figure. I mean, that's sort of the whole theme of it. Okay, so when we get into the stories, Rolly does mention a few things that I had not heard before and relates some really, really direct tales about working with Bob Gurr, Mary Blair, Claude Coates, Jack Fergus, Alice Davis. It's obvious that Rolly has a lot of love for his fellow Disney legends, for Walt, and for the work done by Disney at the fair. And beyond the normal stories about the pavilions, Rolly shares some very funny stories about installing them in New York and dealing with unions, Disney accountants, experiencing certain foods for the first time, and actually seeing snow for the first time in his life. And Rolly shares some very touching memories about Mary Blair, her children, and being with the Blairs while in New York. And there's also a very surprising story about an Imagineer that might have had a little too much to drink.
It's going to be a great one.
Yes, it is. Okay, I laughed out loud on the airplane, which was kind of embarrassing when I was listening to it. Okay, so some of the stories were finally able to confirm tales I'd heard about but couldn't document anywhere. There were some practical jokes played in the waterways of It's a Small World, and a tale about gangs from New York and Mr. Lincoln. And I'd heard from a good friend that people had picked up ball bearings from a neighboring pavilion and threw them at Lincoln to try to prove that he was a real person. It turned out that the local gangs were shooting ball bearings at him, so they actually did have to replace Lincoln's skin quite often. And as my comments, when I reviewed the 3 other audio releases, simply hearing Rolly tell us these tales is nothing short of wonderful. You hear the smile in his voice, and you can feel the warmth and the love that he felt for the Disney legends that he worked with. It's a great way to experience the World's Fair from a designer's perspective, as well as just seeing what it was like to be part of the World's Fair experience. So More Cute Stories Volume 4, the 1964 and 65 New York's World's Fair, is a wonderful resource to add to your collection, as well as just a way to enjoy an hour of time with Rolly Crump. And you need to grab a copy today. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
If it's a legend that you seek, come on and take a peek at the window of the week.
This week's window is actually located in Disneyland Paris, which some of you may have been to before. I haven't. Have you?
No.
Oh, okay.
Only in my dreams.
Only in your dreams, okay. So the window reads, Net Gross Forsgren and Green, Counselors of Investment, John Forsgren, Judson Green. Put your money where the mouse is. Now, John Forsgren was the vice president and treasurer of Disneyland Paris before its opening, and he went on to become the senior vice president and chief financial officer of the park until 1994.
And Judson Green was the chief financial officer of all Disney parks for a few years until he was promoted to president of Disney Theme Parks and Resorts Division in 1991. He helped to expand the company through the Disney Cruise Line, Tokyo Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris.
Sometimes you might see it, sometimes you don't. Hey, look, what's that? It's a 5-legged goat.
A small piece of the House of the Future still exists in Disneyland today, if you know where to look. Now, just by the entrance to Pixie Hollow, hidden in the bushes, is a large, unsuspecting concrete block. And this block is actually one of the foundations for the House of the Future. Now, it's been hiding in plain sight for all these years, but pixie magic these days keeps it daily visitors from really seeing it. But the next time you're in the area, go peek around. Go ahead and look for it. The fairies are not going to mind. They won't yell at you because they're in the back.
Yeah, I bet it's actually hiding the dinosaur egg, or the dragon egg.
There's dragon eggs there?
The flying dragon egg.
Nope, don't like this conversation anymore. Had to bring up a sore subject, didn't you?
Anytime. I mean, you're, 10 minutes away from Disneyland, so what's fair is fair.
Okay, I'll give you that. I still hate you a little bit, but that's okay.
Well, we made it through a whole episode without mentioning any half-day parks.
Until now.
Oh, shoot. Darn it.
You're just really twisting that knife just a little more, aren't you?
Yes, Communicore Weekly now offers a line of Ginsu knives.
That you could just repeatedly stab Jeff with in the ribs. Thanks a lot.
Exactly. So, but before it gets any worse, we want to thank everybody so much for watching and listening to another episode of us.
Yes, please leave us a comment or give us a rating on iTunes. We love to hear what you guys think about the show.
Yes, even the funny stuff.
Yes.
Oh, especially the funny stuff.
Well, especially that stuff.
Yep. And feel free to email us at communicoreweekly@gmail.com.
And of course, you can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/communicoreweekly.
And you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Imaginerding, and he's at Jeff Heimbuck.
And of course, give us a call, leave us a message on the Communicore Weekly GOAT line at 424-785-4628.
And there's still time to pick up your copy of Communicore Weekly, the musical. The best 45 minutes you will ever have.
I was driving today, and Battle for the Magic Kingdom came on, and
love that song.
randomly, and it just amazes me. I was like, this song was great, and we did it.
We saved the world.
We did.
Anyway, you can pick it up at Amazon, CD Baby, iTunes, anywhere you can buy good music. You can even listen to it for free on Spotify.
You can just listen to it for free. That's okay too.
We want you to love us. That's all we care about.
Yes, we just want to be loved, guys. Is that too much to ask for?
Probably.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So for Jeff Heimbuck, I'm George Taylor.
And for George Taylor, I'm Jeff Heimbuck. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time on Communicore Weekly, the greatest online show.
Nah.